Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 147. I'm Cam, and this is not Julie. This is my Fern, who's going to help me take up the whole camera angle. Julie's on vacation. We truly miss her, but the show must go on. So, we're going to be looking at Chukat, which is Numbers 19:1 to 22:1. And if you'd like to see last year's and the year prior, it is Doc Talk 52A and B and 101A and B. We have some great stuff in there, good nuggets to chew on. So if you go back and watch those, because we're not going to discuss those things. So I'd like to look quickly at a good midrash about 10 of the reasons that Moses and Aaron were, told they didn't believe in the Lord. You know, it's interesting. If we see in Exodus 14:11, we see where basically the Lord is telling Moses, why do these people not believe in me? Why are they not believing me? And yet here we have in chapter 20, verse 12, the same thing happening where basically the Lord's like, you just didn't believe me. You didn't believe my words to do what I said. And this is for the generation who's got to walk it out, who's going into the land, who's going to be my feet, my hands, my body. I need them to see how they're going to be able to call on me. So the 10 midrash, and I want to say that because there's nothing wrong with tradition. It's fantastic to take some of these oral traditions and midrashes and really be able to use them for our learning just to help us think. Okay, there are all these different levels. Tradition isn't bad unless it draws us away from the Lord, Torah, and Messiah. That's the only time that tradition, regardless of whose tradition or where it is, it's bad. So I want to real quick recount these 10 possible reasons of what that looks like as far as the unbelief, or you didn't believe me, what exactly that encompasses. One of the reasons suggested is that Moses and Aaron actually, when told to speak to the rock, that meant to speak Torah, speak life to the rock, recite the Lord's promises, and because they didn't do that but used their own words, that was what they didn't believe. In other words, they weren't representing the word to the people. Interesting midrash. The second one is that they didn't sing a song. It's kind of interesting. But so they didn't sing a song afterwards like they did after the Red Sea split. Remember they came out singing a song? That this again being that miraculous of just being able to request the Lord's mighty power, okay, and request this rock to give of its own, that required a song. Like the Red Sea opened, this rock's going to split open. And that because they did not do the song, that was another possible reason. And if it could be, who knows? Then there is, it says 1, 2, 3. The third reason is said that when they said, you rebels, that it insulted God's people. Can't have that. These are the people that the Lord has preserved through and going to bring into the land. So calling them rebels was seen as a real faux pas to not have said that, even though aggravated to not have said that. The fourth reason was Aaron and Moses chose the wrong rock. And not necessarily the wrong rock, but the way they presented it as if he can only do it from this rock, not from any other rock, like as in limiting God. Now, my thought process on this thought was, wait a minute. If you think about it, if this is the same rock that has followed them all the way through, that's been giving the water that's now stopped, it makes perfect sense that this is the rock you're not going to strike. You're going to now speak to it, and then they'll really be able to see the different ways in which you can commune or work with this rock, right? Different ways in which the Lord's saying, call upon the rock, call upon me so that this rock will provide. So I can provide through the rock. So I find that interesting. Just put that out there, but I kind of think, well, no, it's definitely they're supposed to have the same rock. But anyway, I don't remember which one that was. I think that was 4. So the fifth one has to do with the missed opportunity. And it says that at this point, Moses and Aaron were given the opportunity to really show how this next generation was going to interact with the Lord. Because remember, again, everything's changing for this new generation. Everything's going to be new, right? When they go into the land, there's not going to be manna. There's not going to be water out of the rock, right? These are going to change, but it's teaching this generation how to function in the land. It's kind of like, and another one was that Moses and Aaron lost their temper. Well, really, Moses lost his temper, and that misrepresented the way the Lord was speaking to him. The Lord wasn't speaking to them angry that they were wanting, crying, and scared about not being able to be provided for. Again, the Lord's saying, that's okay. You're going to have situations that seem as if it's hopeless. There's no water. But he will provide. All you have to do is ask, okay? So that opportunity was missed. The opportunity was missed as far as being able to see how to interact with them, right? So all this was because he lost his temper, right? He lost his temper and just yelled, "You rebels!" and right, misrepresented the Lord. We have to be careful about that one. The next one is that he struck the rock. Again, it kind of goes together. Struck the rock instead of just asking. The Lord wants us to be able to know that we can simply ask. The striking has been done. Remember, this is the generation going into the land, the generation going into the millennium, right? It's already been done. Just ask, right? That's what the Holy Spirit's for. Water and the Holy Spirit water, okay? Then another reason was that striking the rock twice, not just once. It says, the Midrash says, well, if once, that's fine because that's exactly what happened before. But twice now shows even more aggression being needed than before. And then the next one had to do with not giving God the credit, because Moses says, do we have to provide this? As if he's the one doing it. Now remember, Moses is the most humble of all servants. So while there's this one mark against him, it doesn't mean that his entire work and walk through the Lord is dismissed. That's not what it means. But it's just said, one of the Midrashes is that he presented it as if he and Aaron were doing it. Again, remember, they're grieving. Their sister died, and now there's a water crisis, and they're not even having time to grieve. And if you think about this, I'm going off a little bit, but back in Leviticus, right? Leviticus 10, when Nahab and Abihu died, Aaron was not going to eat the sin offering like he was supposed to. And Moses says, what are you doing? You're supposed to be doing that even during grief. And then he excuses Aaron because he understands. Here we have the generations going through the same type of thing. And here we have Moses and Aaron being presented with a time of grief and having to still go by the words and the commands of the Lord and putting aside their grief and taking care of business. Kind of interesting that we have a repeat, not just for the people, but also for the leaders. And then the very last one is my favorite. And it says, you know what? We don't really know. So it just is between Moses and the Lord, Aaron and the Lord. Exactly what it was that they did. If it was something in their heart, their imagination, whatever, that it's not meant for us to know. It's just, all right, so there's 10 thoughts, midrashes, on what happened as to why they really didn't go into the land. And then I'm going to throw this one out as another one is, hey, they're in the generation in which he said, you're not going. And the only people that the Lord said did complete in their heart with the, as in relation to the spy event of Numbers 13 was only Caleb and Joshua. Aaron and Moses were not mentioned in that. So it just followed on that they were just a part of that generation. No matter what, they may have been not going into land anyway. Because you can't find any place that Moses is told that you're going to bring him into land. Only you're going to bring him out of Egypt. Which makes you scratch your head and go, all the way from the beginning, the Lord knew he wasn't going in, obviously. But remember, he's seen in Matthew 17 on the mount. So that tells you he does go in, just in a different way. My second point really is looking at the serpents. It's one verse that just started my head going everywhere. It's in 21:6, and I'm going to read it. It says, and the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many of the people of Israel died. All right, then they come to Moses, and you know the story. The word sent there is very peculiar. It says the Lord sent. And we would think the Lord's like, snakes, go bite them, go bite them. But the word sent there is more like to let them go of their own way. In other words, like what Instead of saying snake, you go by Miss Smith, Miss Brown, and Mr. Thibodeau. All right. Instead of doing it that way, it's kind of like he picked up the gate and just let the snakes go. And the snakes are going to go and do what snakes do. They're going to do their natural thing. So here's how my brain started going. We've got people complaining, right? They're speaking against the Lord. In a way, it's slander against the Lord, okay? They're complaining, they're, right? They're just not happy. They're impatient and upset because remember, they've got to go around, so they're taking longer than how they would have been going, okay? They wanted to go through and it didn't happen. So anyway, the Lord lets these snakes just go. So here's my thought. We have snakes. The very first snake, what? In the garden, right? Hasatan represents that snake, or I should say that snake represents Hasatan. Fiery. You know, we have the seraphim, which are also fiery serpents. They're around the Lord, and they're singing at all times. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord our God. The words that come out of their mouth are praising, uplifting, holy. But the words of the serpent on the earth were conniving, venomous, slanderous. And here we have people who are complaining and being slanderous as far as not giving the Lord credit for doing what he said he would do, which was bring them through the desert in 40 years. Remember, this is right towards the end. Right towards the end. They're so close, right towards the end. And they're doubting through their words. They're slandering the Lord. And the snakes are allowed to bite those who slander. And my head was like, oh my gosh, it's likeness to likeness. You know, we talked about last week, I think, or it may got cut out, but I talked about the fire. When Aaron ran out with the fire, and the fire, the plague of God came up, and that fire met fire, right? They don't consume each other. They link up. The things of God link up, right? Here you have the enemy. Here you have the two venomous things link up, and it creates death. The two fires of the Lord link up and creates life. It ends death. Here we have the opposite. These two link up and creates death, right? It's the slander. It's the Lashon Hara, the evil speech, which made me go back to Miriam again. Oh my gosh, Miriam's the one who spoke against what the Lord provided in leadership, right? Lashon Hara. She had leprosy. Here, the camp's not dying of leprosy. They're being bitten. They're being bitten by the shadow of what's in the heavenlies. In the heavenlies, they're speaking glorious things. On the earth, they're speaking opposite of glorious things. They're speaking slander. And so they're going and just being drawn. Gateways are being opened when these people are spilling out the trash, right? They're just showing, they're exposing their our uckiness. We opened up a portal, a spiritual portal. There they had a physical representation of what was happening spiritually. They're opening that up, and those serpents were latching up and killing them. So the answer to that is that the Lord has Moses put up a pole. So then they're looking up. They're looking up and realizing this makes no sense. But you said to look up, and you said healing. So the very fact that they look up and call on the Lord, they're showing faithfulness. They're trusting that what the Lord said he's going to do, he's going to do. Where what they're speaking before is that the Lord's not going to do it. Now they're looking up and speaking truth that the Lord will do it. So the very speech and the act of looking up is countering what they were doing. It's a way of asking forgiveness, but not only that, it's that they're doing the opposite. Remember, just asking forgiveness, while great, we still have to go. Yeshua says, go and sin no more. Same thing for them in the desert. Go, sin no more. There are other times that we do see the serpents being sent out and used in Scripture. Deuteronomy 8:15 is speaking of their journey, and it says, talking about the Lord, who led you through the great and awesome wilderness, fiery serpents and scorpions and thirst. Aren't these all the things that we talked about this week? Where there was no water, you brought water for you out of the flint rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, in order to humble you and to try you to do good in the end. See, it's that trying them. Look, the Lord held a protection around them. We're getting close to going in, and he just lifts that protection. he's not sicking the snakes on them. He's just lifting the protection, kind of like he did with Job, in order to further their growth with them. We also see where I love this, in Ecclesiastic 10:8, it talks about how the serpents come out, but only when you break through the wall. And it suggested that's the teeth, the wall of the teeth. When we speak evil words that break through the wall of our teeth, in other words, we vocalize them, it opens the way to the serpents. The serpents, Lashon Hara, right? It opens that gateway. We don't want that. We do not want that. And then you also see in Jeremiah 8:17, Amos 9:3, where we also have the idea of serpents being used. But I love this. In the Brit Hadashah, we have where Yeshua is saying, look, he sent the 70 out and he said, serpents, their venom is not going to bother you. I'm totally paraphrasing this. That, the snakes are not going to be poisonous to you, right? We also have, think about it in Acts. Oh my gosh, I love this. It's in Acts 28:3-5, where Paul gets bit by that snake and he just shakes it off in the fire and it just burns. We have a snake and fire again, but this time it doesn't harm him at all, because Messiah said to them, look, I'm going to give you the power to tread on snakes and serpents. I give you the power to do that. Their venom is not going to hurt you. And think about in the millennium, here's the cool thing too. In the millennium, the child will play with the adder. When the most dangerous poisonous snakes, the child can put his hand in it, it's not going to hurt him. It's not going to hurt him. Oh, there's so much there, right? Because they're going to not open. We're not going to open up those gateways that allow the serpent to come in. He can only chew on what he's permitted to chew on, right? It's like death. Death can only hold on to what's permitted to be death. Messiah had no sin on him. Death had no authority. Couldn't hold on to him, right? When we're forgiven and we see that second death, it won't touch us, because we'll be covered in righteousness. There'll be nothing for death to hold on to. Where's your sting? It'll have none, because they go together. Godliness with godliness, evil with evil. We want to be robed in godliness and be ready to go into that kingdom when it's time. So that basically is how I'll end this week. I have a lot of other stuff to talk about, but just one person. Look how long I made it. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to have Julie back for next week. We will probably be traveling, so look for us to be in a different environment. It'll be interesting, but it'll be fun. So we thank you. Hope you have a fantastic week, and we will see you for Dr. Talk 148. Bye-bye. Shalom.